Good evening, everybody. I would like to introduce y'all to our new co host, Mr. Dan O'Brien. Where are you from, sir?
I am located in South Dakota, Sioux Falls specifically, but someone needs a show up here. If Jimmy can't get to him for whatever reason, I've covered a few of Jimmy's in the past, and more than likely happy to do it again. So otherwise, North and South Dakota and Minnesota, all within my realm of possibility. I might even travel to Canada if needed, but it would have to be literally 5 miles into the country or in Winnipeg.
Okay.
But I got my passport. I'm more than happy to do it. People want to see it. Hey, we could do that.
I would love to have us all the way up there. That would be amazing.
I have seen a couple people ask, and yeah, it wouldn't be bad.
Good evening, Mr.
There's
Lee.
Gordon checking
How are
in.
you, sir? We are all getting ready for finals. Are you holding finals in your area?
I am. I have basically got a page ready to be published, but I don't have it published yet. Still working on two other little things. I want to find a cool little graphic for it and do something that way. And then laugh at some other people that unfortunately can't hold it. But just letting you know that the people up here are louder than some of your people, and certainly
Mm,
louder than Pop Tarts people.
okay. Well, we're going to consider that a challenge and we'll see you at finals.
You can definitely consider it a challenge.
We would love that. Hey, we got two other judges up in the audience.
There we go.
We got Mr. Pop Tart himself
We
and
got
Mr.
Brandon. There we go.
Brandon.
Good evening, Shane.
Good evening, Shane. Good to see you in here. Um, Finally got a location for finals.
Excellent. Yeah, I saw that. You got a tire
And I
place.
was stressing, trying to find a location that you can take builds that are 65 dBs and up, and with internet access. Those two don't go together.
Well, you got to think about it for a second, because having good internet is key for finals, obviously for us
Yes, it
judges.
is.
Not so much for the competitors, but for the judges, we've got to have something that's solid. And it is tricky trying to find something if you don't have a shop yourself already, or having a stereo shop that is willing to help you out in that regard. Um, Fortunately enough, I've got kind of both in the area right here, and my I don't want to call him a business partner because he's more than that. He's probably my best friend. Phil Nelson and I have a little shop just south of Sioux Falls here, that I just see Dustin checking in here for me as well. We've got to show up in his area this weekend. But Phil and I have a little shop just 5 minutes south of Sioux Falls that we are going to have our finals at. It's right off the interstate, a mile into town, and we're not even into town yet. So that's even better. But we got good internet there for he and I to utilize for that. And yeah, if you don't have good internet for finals, or if you're broadcasting a show, it's you run into all kinds of laggy issues. You run into garbled audio, and even worse, screens that freeze on you. So if you're looking at 3 o'clock and hey, your screen hasn't changed and it's 4:15, you got a big issue.
All right. Mr. Pop
Yep,
Tart needs
definitely
every
throw that
judge
on.
that hasn't got a thumb drive from him to send your address to him. Matter of
I
fact,
would
I got mine earlier today.
Pop Tart, I'd show you all the USBs I got, but I will gladly take an extra from you. And that's actually something else to talk about tonight if you want to. Melissa, is making sure you got the right stuff when you get to finals. Don't be kind of chilling in the lanes and not doing anything. If your USB or memory stick or whatever you're using isn't queued up, sorry, I got other people. Get out of my lane. go back around and wait some more. Unfortunately, it's going to be not necessarily hectic, but it is time consuming to make sure that you've got everything ready to go.
All right. For Mr. Greg, he's asking how much are the USBs? The ones that we are discussing are our new Ghost class. It is non-rebase music. You get 75 seconds to hit your highest SPL peak. Doesn't matter if you got your doors open, windows open. Pop-Tarts made this class fun for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
He's did really well with that.
It should be kind of a cross between just your tones, your music. It is max SPL.
Yep.
And it's a long time for it. It's not an average SPL, although 75 seconds would be a nice average for some people out there. But I don't think a lot of the smaller people would be able to handle 75 seconds. I don't think they've got the battery life, and I'm not going to say caps or otherwise. I'm just going to say battery life. If you don't have it, you probably won't do well in 75 seconds too easily.
I watch them do Mayhem class,
Yep.
And about 30 seconds in, they all turn ghost white, and it looks like they're going to be sick.
That's because they just saw that they actually aren't doing 13.2 volts anymore. They're doing like 11.4, and they're all worried. Yet,
Man,
that's not the worst thing.
It is funny to watch people run that class because they're trying to go all in. And they want to, but man, they just can't. Hey, good to see you, sir.
See Jeremy in there this time as well. How was your first time there this past weekend, Jeremy? I don't know you personally, but I'm hoping you had fun with it. Hoping you're coming back for a second weekend or third or 10th.
Oh, cool.
Yep. And there are, I'm not going to say that there are tricks to a long musical average, but if you've been competing for a while, there are tricks to the trade. And I'm not going to get into them right now, but there are tricks to it. Maybe after we've run it a few times, maybe around Christmas time, I'll let loose on a trick or 3 or 10 or something. But there are tricks to every category that we have, and other orgs as well. But for ours, there's a lot of tricks out there that we got to know. Nice. What class is that in, Jeremy? 147.6 is pretty decent at 40 hertz. I like that. I'd say if that's on 1,000 watts, that's hugely fantastic.
Monster class.
Not bad for a preloaded. That would not be too bad for a preloaded box as well.
It'd be kind of low for a preloaded box.
Well, it depends on the preloaded. If we're talking, I'm not going to name any Rockville subs here or anything, but I've done 162 on a Rockville preloaded in Base Wars, the Port Wars section here about 4 years ago, though. So, it's not bad, but
okay. Pop-Tart says the loudest he's gotten in that class is a 148.
I might need you to overnight that thing to me, Pop-Tart, and I'll show you something this weekend.
Oh, we're about to have some fun with this. Are we going to have a top 10 for this class?
Oh,
because this sounds fun.
I've actually done that just there's a couple guys here in the South Dakota area that are bragging that they're louder than some other people. And I'm like, okay, guys, put up a top 10 list. And they've gone through all the results that I've done this year and picked up the top 10. So it's some of them are pretty decent. And no, Phil, I won't tell you the tricks. You know most of them. That would be my buddy Phil in there. And yeah, we know most of our own tricks for that stuff, but there's still some more that I'm not going to divulge right now.
The trick is to get your butt out there and test.
Yes,
If you're not testing, you're not winning. You just
very
can't
true.
go out and show up at a show and expect it to go your way.
Yeah, if you don't know what your system's going to do on a day where it's 95 degrees and 60% humidity versus 90% humidity, and you don't know that you're clipping because you changed USB sources, you're going to have problems. If you don't know what your system does on a 70-degree day with 70% humidity at a different elevation because you're at the coast down in Biloxi, or you are all of a sudden up by myself or Jimmy, or you're at Melissa's site there in Tuscaloosa or something, or up in the mountains, you're going to find out that elevation changes it as well. So write
I,
down all your stuff.
I gained 2 dBs by going down to the coast down in Biloxi,
Mm-hmm.
and I lose 2 by going up to Slamology.
Elevation makes
Yes,
a huge difference.
man,
It
that
always
was a
does.
learning curve because Slamology was my first big trip away from home. And I don't have anybody really loud around me. So I went up there thinking I was going to just nail this. No, I fell on my face.
It's going to happen. Like you said, you've got to test. And I've said this before many times that I've got numbers dating back, oh geez, probably 20, 30 years at least with some of my really old score sheets, where I was topping out at like 128, 130 with 212s on 50 or 100 watts back then. And that was huge. That was when 150 from guys like Mark Fukuda and some of the other folks out there before Alma started. And 130 back then was gigantic. 140 was almost unheard of. That's like doing a 75 or almost an 80 today, essentially. So, yeah, it's if you know what you're doing, you're writing down where you're testing, the temperature, humidity, elevation, and your song, your volume, your amperage that you're seeing, your amperage that the amp is actually seeing. If you've got TermLab with some of the new functions on it, you're taking screenshots of all that stuff and you're writing it down. You're,
Oh, I keep that
you're
notebook.
never going to see these loud guys out there not referring to a notebook somewhere about what they did.
Oh, good Lord.
Uh-oh. Travis, that's not good, man. Don't be doing that.
I can see how that would happen, though. That is one of our hardest classes to run.
Very true. Anything, especially a average music, that's the hardest class you can ever try to run, with the exception of maybe a death match, only because it's longer in time.
Mhm.
Otherwise, anything that's a minute plus on music, because it is so dynamic, they're extremely hard on your amps. They're hard on your speakers. They're hard on your tweeters. Everybody knows that's when woofers start to blow because they can't cool fast enough.
Mhm.
It's the hardest stuff to run.
It really is. And the death match, I've got maybe 2 people in my area that will even run that. They're like, nope, I don't have a sponsor.
There we go. 58 in chaos at 3,800 or 3,500. Oh, there's Donnie.
Good
Donnie,
evening, sir.
I was mentioning that to someone.
I probably gonna take care of him.
Yeah, we're gonna
Billy
take care of you, Donnie.
All of us. He figures something out in the end.
Donnie, you're trying to kill my cables, remember, because you snapped 2 of them at the show in Yankton.
Man, I go through so many cables, it isn't even funny with the hurricane class.
Oh, Hurricane is brutal on the door cables when they're going through the door as well, especially if you go through the bottom lip of the door.
Yes.
The best thing that I've heard some people doing is not necessarily tech flex across your Cat 5 cables, but taking uh,
The
like a
gas.
windshield washer fluid line and cutting that and slicing it and putting your cable in that, or like a gas line, something that is not necessarily reinforced, but something that is a little bit thicker to give you a little bit of protection with it. And unfortunately, I got to pick on Donnie for a second, but his doors are built down to that door sill. There is no space. There's no gap there with any buffer. It's cable onto the floor, which is hard cement onto a door that is hard with like a rubberized undercoating or more cement feel to it. So there's a lot of friction on both sides when it happens with that cable as it's trying to sneak through there, and it just ripped apart my cables. Finally, the third time through, I was like, okay, this is the last cable. We're going over the door jamb itself. That was easier rather than the bottom of the door sill. That was much easier.
Have you seen Patrick Kramer's no wall build?
I know of the build, but I haven't seen it personally. It's one of those things that I try and look when I see really loud scores come up. I try and look on
Yeah.
their Facebook page or try and find them on Instagram and see if Billy's maybe posted something on Instagram with a picture of it as well. Because not all the Facebook pictures, not all the Instagram pictures are the same, of course, for us. Which, by the way, check out the Instagram for Base Wars as well, there, guys and gals. A lot of extra pictures there and extra videos, things that we've done. I haven't seen it, but yeah, let's do
It's
Warlord and
quite
Beast.
amazing. Just the fact that he can do that with a no wall
But
is
true.
amazing.
Anytime you're up against a no wall, or in my case, I'm always I liked last year until Billy changed the rules for stealth, because in stealth it was the smallest class that we offered. And I like the small classes and pushing numbers a little bit, which fortunately or unfortunately is why I didn't show up at finals last year after driving about 4,400 miles the previous 2 weeks for it, but just too tired. But also that my numbers weren't there, and I knew that someone was going to beat me, and I didn't want to get second or third place again. But aside from that, knowing your numbers and knowing the class, it definitely helps. And if you're louder somewhere else, definitely check out that particular class. There's people right now that in last year's boss category or bandit or beast or warlock that haven't even placed in the top 10 this year because it was new. Number one, it was new. If you don't know the rules for it, you're probably going to get beat. So look at the rules, study the rules, and if it's not there, well, then we may or may not let you do it, depending on the judge. But know the rules, study them, and know what other people are kind of doing in your class. If you're going to attempt to compete with the big gals and the big boys out there, as Chris Mills is saying, he's hoping to get 160. Chris can do pretty close to a 60 right now. It's getting there. I've seen his vehicle a couple of times at shows, and I've sat in it. Josh, just above him a little bit, is saying 150 is his goal. It is great to have those goals, and once you achieve them, that's when you got to start looking at, okay, now where am I getting an extra 3 or 4 tenths this time? Or again, studying all that stuff that we've already talked about a little bit here with temperature, humidity, location. I happen to know that I have not tested at my shop at all yet this year with my little car, but I have a feeling it might be a little bit better than another location in town simply based on the location that I know that it's at least 70 or 80 feet higher in elevation. So it's elevation definitely matters.
Oh,
Great.
and
Ooh,
just
for
for Chris Mills, if you don't put Jimmy in that hot seat, I'm gonna be upset with you.
Oh, Jimmy can't handle it. Jimmy's getting old and weak
No,
and frail.
Jim did
He can't
something
handle
to
Chris
me
Mills
at
going 160.
Slamology. He told me I got in Paul Nasher's vehicle to get a demo.
Oh, yep.
And Paul hit me with, probably half of what he had. Jimmy walks up and goes, I didn't get it on video. Do it again. So, Chris Mills, you owe me one, man. Do this for me.
Speaking of Paul, the big show that Jimmy has and hosts up here in Sioux City, which is 712 Boom.
Yeah.
It's as Chris just said, he's been in Paul's a couple of times as well. Last summer, and I do mean last year, 2022, I got the hurt put on me by Paul before he was doing 170s. I crawled in kind of in a hot seat, but I crawled into a fetal position and stuck my head in the kick, and I had the meter right here in front of my nose. And when I got out, I was like, was that about a 67.8? And Sonia just kind of looked at me and said, no, it was like a 68.1. And I'm like, okay, good. Thank you. Here's your meter. And I plugged my ears for about 5 minutes so I wasn't hearing anything, and slowly let the pressure off my ears again until I could actually hear again properly. It's the last time that I will get into Nazar's vehicle till he hits a 75. And probably last time I'll get in any vehicle above a 65 for a while. But it's been a while. Haven't heard too many 65s up here yet, but Nazar's is definitely one. There's a couple others in the area that are really close, but it'll be interesting to see what we get. Yeah, Chris Gordon's another loud one there. Brandon just put up there. He did a 142 almost in crowd loud. That is by far
the vehicle.
Probably by far my favorite category to run actually is crowd loud. Simply because with crowd loud, it's more so than just simply being able to play loud. It's 6 feet out and it's loud, which that's the stoplight class. That's kind of what you're playing for, as I called it a couple nights ago or last week maybe. That's kind of the grandma class where you're trying to bug grandma in the car sitting next to you at the stoplight. And that's exactly what it is. It's it's 6 feet out. If you want to be loud 6 feet out, that's a whole nother kind of loud, especially if you're doing a 142.
Yes.
You're able to do that, and that's also an average. It's not a peak. It's an average for that. So you're doing probably 45, 46, if not higher to begin, but it's brutally loud if you think about it. Chris, we are going to be in T at the shop that Phil and I have. I've got a page that's going to be posted after the show tonight for it. It's about 5 miles south of Sioux Falls, right off the interstate. We're not even in town.
All right, I'll leave this one to you. Let's see if we can read all this real quick. I don't think I need to weigh in on this one, because an extreme build is a completely different monster than somebody just rolling up in their daily driver Tahoe.
Very true. And at the same time, are they going a bit too far with rules? Yes and no. And I got to look at it that exactly that way for you, Donnie.
I don't know.
No, in the fact that, yeah, you're going to have to compete against Nazar's. You're going to have to compete against Carlos if he wants to do anything other than tone. You're going to have to compete against the people that have similar builds. And that's the main reason why the classifications are the way that they are. We're not going to have, in terms of, racing, we're not going to have a midget car versus a sprint car versus a Formula One Indy car. those classifications are there kind of for that reason, and we've taken them into consideration through most of the judges, except for a couple of the new judges that really haven't had a chance to weigh in on anything, or that are so new that they basically started this year. And I'll use Pop Tart as that example. He's a new judge. He didn't really have any say as to what the classes were going to be for unleashed or leashed when we were talking about them last year. Bringing them up right now, it's a great time to bring them up because this is when we are talking about them, with the season starting essentially at 6:01 Saturday, October 7th. Some of the walls, yeah, they don't go the extra mile and build their cabin up. Others do.
I see both sides of it because I understand wanting to protect your vehicle,
Definitely.
but I also know how the daily drivers feel. So I'm going to leave this one up to Billy. I
Yeah.
follow his rules. It's not my
And-
work. And this is one time I'm glad I'm not the boss.
yeah, that again holds true. But at the same time, what I think where the rules do come into play with it is we are keeping someone like myself out of that particular class if I were to go the extreme with GOAT or legendary style. Am I going to have that much power ever in my little car? No, but maybe. The daily is the nice aspect of it, is that not everybody has a separate base only vehicle. Mine's a little different. I paid $200 for my base vehicle, so I can talk about it a little bit that way. But like Donnie says, not necessarily being handicapped, but you're allowing more space to be in there. And if you do it right, you rip out the dash, you dynamat all the way up to the bottom sill of the windshield, and then you glass over it, or you put in a form and you fill it with concrete, as yours is and other people's are. Some people do take them to literally the extreme and do that. That's how everybody gets above that 180 mark. You ask Alan Dante what he's doing. He's not going to tell you everything. I'm sure he wouldn't tell me anything, but that's where 186 starts happening, is once you've started doing that and figuring out what does and doesn't work. And if you're only one of 5 people doing it, or only one of 10 people, it's nice, but that's your only competition. And you are in the Indy class of cars. There is nothing higher than that. If you want to be more daily driver, or lack of a better term, you want to be more like my little Festiva or the little S10 or the CRX or something, well, then you're talking midgets or sprint cars, or you're talking small circle track, 1/8 mile, quarter mile. You're not talking F1 or IndyCar, to use that kind of comparison for everything. Yeah, there are only 40 or 50 drivers capable of doing that in the world. It's different, but yes, being able to display those numbers is nice, and being able to have people walk away from the vehicle cramming their ears because their ears hurt, that's definitely even better. So, and again, yeah, trying to display those musical capabilities. Like I said, if you're walking away and your ears are ringing after also putting on a pair of headphones to help drown it out a little bit, maybe, it's still really nice. Maybe we should consider getting the, and I'm going to get the name of it wrong, but is it an aerometer for the wind turbine kind of thing, and see how fast your wind
I
is?
bought one and somebody walked away with that thing.
They're cheap,
Yes, they
but they
are.
are kind of effective as well. But not necessarily musical or tone related, but just more hair trick windy related. And my lack of hair doesn't do too well for that kind of stuff. So Melissa, you'd be more apt to sitting in there doing the hair trick. So
Donnie, just know, Billy does talk to all of his judges, and we are discussing this as a group.
That is
So
true,
know
Derek.
you're being heard. That's all I can say right now because I don't weigh in on much. I just follow the rules.
It can definitely, Derek. Those meters are nice to have as a extra tool. Is it a be all end all? No, unfortunately, that's still the mic somewhere in your vehicle. That's the biggest hurt meter out there. That's the biggest thing that will make you or break you. And by break you, I mean make you go broke, because the only way to get louder sometimes is to be the man or the girl with deep pockets.
Man, Chris Mills will go up against anybody.
Chris will. He has a no die attitude.
He doesn't care what kind of vehicle you bring to the show, he will jump on it. I love that attitude.
Oh, and there, Josh again. Yeah, budget builds are nice. Um,
They
as I was,
are.
as I was
His
going to say when I was
especially.
last talking about how loud you can get, I'm honestly I'm more impressed if you are doing, and again I'm going to name drop someone else. I don't really like doing it when they're not in here, but if you know who Ronnie Smith is, uh,
Yes,
Ronnie has done over 150 with a single 6.5.
that sniper box made it for
That
him.
little box is so impressive. I've looked at it online from a couple of different angles. I've asked him about it. I've tried getting measurements from him. He won't give me any, but I am honestly more impressed if you are louder with a couple of 6.5s or a couple of 8s or a single 10 on 500 watts than someone else in the other categories, the smaller categories, stealth and boss. If you're running 3,000 watts on the max and you're getting beat by someone that's got a smaller sub and smaller power, again, you got to go back to what Melissa and I were talking about 10 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, and you got to be testing. You got to
There.
figure out where your peak is. You got to figure out what your resonance is and what you might or might not be doing wrong in your vehicle. And there's
We
all
got
kinds of tricks
the
there.
man himself up in here with us now.
Yep.
Jimmy Pittman. Good to see you, sir.
The other old man up here.
I think Billy picks us old for a reason.
He he picks all us old people because he thinks we're going to break a hip in a vehicle sooner or later or something like that. The base is just going to hit, and your hip is all of a sudden just going to take you out, and you're like, "Oh no, my hip! Wow!" No, in my case, it's going to scare me half to death, and my head's going to go up against a windshield or something. I'm going to knock myself out, and then they're going to see me bleeding out of my ears or something.
Oh my God.
Jimmy's lucky he can get into a lot of the vehicles because he's got Sonia there to help him run the term lab, but it's kind of nice. Yeah, I was going to say Taylor used to have a massively efficient box back then. That is very true. If you know what is happening with your box for efficiency, and I'm not talking sensitivity on your sub, that's two completely different things happening there between efficiency and sensitivity. Yeah, call him out, Chris. Get him.
Get him. I ain't got anything loud enough to put him in to run hot seat with him. Somebody else got to do it for me.
We could. Jimmy and Sonia bring their little dog with them. They bring Chevy with them. They could put Chevy in there at like 105 or 107 dB. That would probably be okay. But anything louder than that, and I think he'd crawl into one of the ports. He's this small little Chihuahua or a little Min Pin. I honestly I can't remember. but I think he might crawl into some of the ports otherwise and take a nap in there. So it would be it'd be interesting to see that.
Pop Tart says you'll get yours Friday.
We could be floating doggies out there instead of floating babies.
I like their little dogs. Don't be floating them.
Oh, let's see. Budget builds. Yeah, budget builds are always nice, Derek. I like budget builds. Like I say, I am much more impressed with a 10 beating out a 15 or a couple of 8s beating out a 12, or smaller subs, less power beating someone with bigger. It's always kind of fun to see that happen. Yep, there we go. Get your little Frenchie out there, Donnie, and we'll go out. We'll do that. We could have the dog class, the dog house. Justin, I am having a good week. Actually, I was in your town this morning, man. I drove right by the site again this morning at about 10:15 on my way through town. I had to stop off and get gas, and I decided I was going to drive by the site again where we're having our show this weekend. Yeah, we got all kinds of goodies happening this weekend. It's I know I've got a show. Jimmy's got a show on Sunday. I was going to say, I thought Brandon had a show. I think Pop Tart's got a show. We got all kinds of stuff happening this weekend. It's getting down to crunch time for finals, so I'm not.
I don't have any shows this weekend, so if any of my guys need a pop-up show, I'm here for it. Call me.
Definitely. It's 3 more weekends, including this weekend till finals. So we've got
This year it's gone fast.
22 or 23 days, something like that. So
this year is so fast because it feels like we just got done with finals.
It does, except we had 2 big heat waves up here in Sioux Falls, and I thought the second one was worse, even though we had about a week's reprieve in there where we had temps up into the hundreds, which is very rare for us up here. But damn, it was hot. I was glad I had air conditioning to work in. I'm just rubbing that into a few people who I know have to work outside all day, and that Phil, a couple others. What month will we start next year? Well, Justin, that is a great question. Technically, as soon as finals is done,
we usually run shows right after finals.
If someone wants to hold a show at 6:01 on Saturday, right away after finals, that's technically the new year. Once finals is done, the new year starts. If you want to do a show at midnight, I'll be more than happy to meter your car at midnight. You might not be the only one there, and I might be first in line, but you could be second. You could be runner-up again.
And since we got a good group in here right now, y'all please do us a favor and get your memberships early and use your members all year long.
The link on the basewars.org page does work for memberships.
Yep.
I checked it out. I checked it out on a different computer. I logged in on my mom's laptop last night or the night before. And yes, TBO gets a discount. You guys pay $30 per member. Everyone else pays $25. Only because you asked, Derek. That's why you get the discount.
Membership is $25. That is good from this year's finals
Yep.
As soon as the new year starts till next year's finals, or whenever we do finals. If it's 18 months between,
it's 18 months and it's covered for 18 months. Yep. If it covers from finals to finals.
Mm-hmm.
So if we get, I don't want to be pessimistic, we get COVID-23 that starts on October 6th for whatever stupid reason. And every governor out there shuts us down and the government says we can't go outside. And we got to wait 3 years. Well, that membership is good for 3 years. So It is from finals to finals. Yeah, we're kind of as Billy has said right now, if you're just kind of finding out about it and you need to make your finals show right now, and technically, yeah, Temple, you can. It is available on the Base Wars page right now. It is up there. I would echo exactly what I was just going to say, and that's echo what Billy said on Monday night, is wait until you see the new classifications, new power structure. We're not really changing the square inches on the sub metric at all, but we are changing some power stuff. Derek, that would be Brad Manning down there in the Oklahoma area. Otherwise, it would be Jimmy in the Kansas City area and myself up here in Sioux Falls. You could probably get a hold of Billy as well, although I believe Billy is going to be without internet for a couple of days, if I remember seeing something in our judges chat about it.
Yes, sir. He'll be gone till next week.
Yeah. And no, Jeremy, you don't need to wait till after finals to get one. But if you want to compete at finals this year, you do need one. And the caveat there is we're not playing favorites. If you want to compete at finals this year and you have one, you've got your 5 shows for that specific class as well. You've got to have a membership. If you are waiting to buy your membership for next year, that's for next year. That's not for this year, for this show this weekend, or Saturday or Sunday next weekend, or Saturday, Sunday the following weekend before finals. It covers you this year for about 23 or 24 days right now. But you've got to have it for finals. Reason for that is
Mr. Aaron's got an engine in his truck again.
There we go.
It's about to be rolling loud.
We'll get Aaron back out there.
Man, he gets such great demos.
Yeah. Reason for it is, again, we don't want to play favorites. We can't change the rules that have been in the rule book for over a year that say you got to have 5 shows. There's still multiple shows this weekend that are relatively close, geographically speaking. You can do it to get 5 shows still if you are a brand new member today. You must have your membership the day of finals. I will look it up. If you do not show up on the sheet, well, sorry, you drove a little bit too far and you're going to be a spectator. If you can't prove to me that you filled out the form and I can't message Billy and see that number, sorry, you drove too far, and you can come back tomorrow.
Better yet, Billy ain't got time for us to be messaging him.
Yeah.
Y'all have these member numbers ready for us. That's the least you can do.
It's a nice number to remember as well.
Man, he made it easy as can be. Remember the last 2 digits of it. That's it.
All you need is 2 digits out of it. You need your zip code, because that's going to tell me the first 2 or 3 numbers out of your member number. The last 2 numbers are the easiest ones to remember, because you only got to remember 1 or 2 numbers. You're either number 1 or number 2 or number 99, which we don't have a number 99 yet. I think the biggest one I've seen was like a 32. So if you've got to get your membership done, do it tonight. Because starting Sunday after final, technically Saturday after the finals is done, starting Sunday, October 8th, that's the new year. That's when you need your 2024 membership.
Yep.
Donnie, like I said, if Jimmy can't do that, I would be more than happy to do something for you out there in the Cherokee or Lamar or Sioux Center, wherever you want to do something. Justin, I might be able to find you a lanyard from it. I don't know if I've got a spare one, because I think when I originally got them from Billy, I think he gave me 3 of them for 2 other competitors, but I believe I still have one. because the guy hasn't competed at all since then, and I've messaged him a couple of times. So let's see. Only ran one show this year. Well, that's okay, Derek. One show is better than 0 shows. Jeremy, there's always enough to enter. It's just if you're willing to travel far enough to get there sometimes. I know the difference in geographical area up here for me. I've driven 400 plus miles one way to host a show.
I drove 6 hours last weekend to
Yep.
go to a show.
If you've got to drive somewhere to get to a show, Jimmy and I are about 6 hours apart from each other between Sioux Falls and Kansas City. If he's got a show down in the southern tip of Missouri one weekend, and I'm running the same kind of show, but mine is up in Minot, North Dakota, which is the northwest corner, we're going to be almost 1,000 miles apart from each other. You kind of got to pick and choose, and you got to check out the Facebook page where we list all of the scheduled shows and kind of get a big old desk calendar and write them down on it.
All right.
Somewhere here.
Let me get to this one real quick. Adam, we are going to be in Jasper, Alabama, but you are going to have 2 locations that you could choose from. You got Jordan at UAF, which is in Mobile, and then I will be in Jasper, Alabama. So we're actually having 2 finals locations in Alabama. So you're set.
Yep. I know Jimmy's is going to be in south of Kansas City. I believe he said it was in Olathe. I will have mine in T, South Dakota, which is 5 minutes south of Sioux Falls. We will all be broadcasting to Billy, who is going to be sitting there with 10 of us on the screen broadcasting our show and compiling, and then he will broadcast out the overall scores. So again, just because you win at Melissa's site or Jordan's site doesn't mean that you won. Got to check the big list and see how well you're doing that way. Reruns will still be possible at most of the sites, I'm hoping, unless we've got 40 people showing up to one site or something, at which case I'd highly recommend that person have their people pre-register so that he or she knows how many people are actually going to be there. Reruns should be available. If I've only got 10 people, I might give everybody 20 minutes, and for those 200 minutes, 20 minutes times 10, 200 minutes, 3 hours and 20 minutes, or 3 hours and 40 minutes there. And then take an hour off. Troubleshoot everything in your system, and then come back around one at a time and do it again. If there's time for it, that might be exactly how I run it. I don't know. But yeah, scribble the shows on a random piece of paper there, Phil. That sounds like half of our installs, Phil.
You'd be amazed how my shows get booked.
Wrote
on some envelope in my truck, and then I remember to turn them in.
It's like how Microsoft and Apple and everybody else got started. They all got drunk at a bar, and it was on the back of a napkin somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I've lost shows because of that. All right, Dominic's back. Yes, it will be tea time in tea, Justin. I'm kind of going back up through a couple of them that I haven't heard. Thank you, Chris. Lexana is where Jimmy's show is, not Olathe. Lexana or Lexana. Lenexa.
For finals, I will need an IT guy to get with me because I need help. Y'all aren't going to leave me stranded out here. That's too much stuff to have to do by myself. Mr. Dominic in the group helped me last year.
Yeah, if someone leaves Melissa stranded, they're going to have to ask her to Billy. They'll answer to Billy for that one, for leaving you stranded out there. What is the biggest class we have? Well, Jeremy, that's a very loaded question. We currently have 47 classes. Technically, I think the one that has the most participation in it is probably Base Wars. Base Wars, the Port Wars class, because it doesn't have any restrictions at all. You can run anything. You can run a single 8, or you could run 48 12s if you wanted to. And you could run 500 watts or 250,000 watts in it. Otherwise, we do have in some of our other classes, we have unlimited speaker size and unlimited power. So if you come in with a cargo van that's got, again, 24 12s in it, and each one of those 12s is run on a Salt 8, you can do that. We don't have a maximum classification for it. We have an unlimited classification on some of that. And yeah, the SPLs that some of these guys are doing, again, I'll mention Carlos because he's the highest SPL, second highest recorded SPL officially on TermLab at a 186.29. Just, I believe RP did a 0.64 earlier this year as well with that. So he's, Carlos is only 3/10 behind the loudest guy in the world. And I know both of them are working currently on new stuff. I also know that Alan Dante, the former record holder, is working on new stuff down in Brazil. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how many side windows or dust caps hit people in the side of the head this year.
Some of these guys have some extremely scary stuff coming out.
Yes,
Man,
they
I
do.
can't even imagine trying to wire some of their stuff up. I would be so lost.
I would honestly, I get scared looking at some of the wiring that I still see, my own included. Number not even close. Well, Jeremy, in regards to that, Jeremy, we've all got to start somewhere. And
Absolutely.
for references on volume, again, volume is different than dB. There is a scientific difference between them. But average conversation, 70 to 75, depending on who is speaking in their voice and their, are they upset or very animated? You can go up to about 105 to 110 for most concerts that you would be attending. Jackhammer on the streets about 115 to 120. Shotgun blast 120, 130, depending on the weapon. Jet plane about 130, 135. Most of the systems that we see at the shows, 140, 135, 140 is a good starting point for.
Yes, it is.
I don't want to say amateurs or new people out there, but 140 is pretty decent. 150 is kind of a goal for the first year or two, unless you've got, again, going back to the deep pockets comment, and you want to throw $10,000 into a system. For every 10,000 you throw in, you might gain a tenth or two after that, then, depending on time spent and custom shop charges and things like that. But yeah, your daily car, probably 125 to 135 for most of them out there. I know that my Honda Fit, everything being stock in it, does about a 109 or a 110. My older Toyota Tacoma did like a 112, and that was all stock speakers that were 10 or 12 years old. So, and I say that humbly, being a Base Wars judge and competitor for 30 years, that the only thing I changed in it, I honestly thought was going to be helping, which really didn't. But the daily vehicle, it had a Kenwood radio and stock speakers, 112 dB. That's it.
I'm just as excited to see 2.8s pull up at a show as I am like 615s. I like seeing different kinds of builds because you see the people's
True.
personalities come out in their builds.
So mine tells me I'm a pig then, because mine's messy as hell. I I literally got it installed. I haven't changed any portion of the install other than the box in like 4 years, and went from 3/8 to a couple of tens, a couple 12s, tried a couple of different 15s, always been in the upper 140s, and finally over the last year and a half was finally able to push that 150 and 152, 150, almost 153 in actually over 153 in testing, but 153 from the stealth category from last year when we still included port size as well. So
um, according to your build, you're a beast. His build is amazing. And
harsh reality that'll never be finished. That's kind of true, Donnie. Yours is one of those that is never going to be done. There is always going to be something where, okay, should we change this? Can we move that? Can we make this more solid, or can we get a little more flex in it, because systems do need to breathe. It
mhm.
doesn't have to be 100% rock solid. Some systems do better when they breathe, whether it's cracking a window or opening a door a little bit. So yeah, it's got to evolve with the classifications of whether it's Base Wars or another org. It's got to evolve into what you can do there. And that is very true. That goes back again to the testing as well. Got to test it for
I've
different
never heard
variations.
anybody ever say they were finished.
Only when the car is totaled was my build finished once. And even then, I was doing 212s in a. Phil's heard me tell this story. I think a few of my local guys may have heard it, but way back, way back when I started installing professionally, I worked for Circuit City. And this would have been 30 years ago now, actually 29, because I started in 94 with them. I had a couple of Jensen 12s in a bandpass box with a Punch 40 DSM on them. So I was getting 20 watts per side, and I was doing 130 something, like 134, 135 dB out of this box. Car was totaled. I pulled out the stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm done. Not going to do anything else. Then I bought a new truck, and it had nothing in it. And I went for about 2 years without putting anything in it. And finally, one guy came in and said, well, yeah, I got a truck that's just like yours. It's a different color, but man, I want to put something in it. And it got me drooling, we'll just say, for the base again. So I threw an all JBL system in my truck at the time. And even back then on my little Radio Shack meter, it would peak out at 130 and it wouldn't go any higher. But yes, it can be done, but generally there's very much a set of extenuating circumstances, but very few base heads do I know are ever done with a vehicle. They might take everything out and sell it and let someone else do it. But yeah, very few are ever completely done. That's not.
Usually I meter them once and they're done with it. Hey, we gotta go rebuy some stuff. That meter will make you buy stuff you can't afford.
That meter is the biggest creator of butt hurt out there, because you're walking in and your buddy's telling you, "Oh man, it's fun. Hey, we got this show that's coming up. You're gonna come, right? You're gonna bring your prefab box with your single 10 or your single 12." And yes, like Justin just put up there, he's running a single 12, and you bring that. But if it's the right 12 and you got the right amount of power going to it, and you've positioned the box and you've tested that position 3 ways from Sunday, you're going to be loud. If
Yes.
you know how to test and you wrote down everything during your testing.
And sometimes it's as simple as just tweaking the box, turning it just a little bit to get the right wave. Sometimes it's simple. Sometimes you got to work your butt off to get it.
David is just saying he's been done 3 to 5 times over the last 12 to 13 years, yet he's still here. So where is the lie happening in that statement? Have you been done 3 to 5 times? Or are you reminiscing for the last 12 to 13 years about what you had and thinking you could be better?
This is a car that comes to my house a lot to be worked on.
That happens all the time. Yeah, I got out of it when this happened or when that happened. And, my kid just put a stereo in his car. And I figured, since the kid was doing it, and I asked the wife, and she said, yeah, you can put something in your car. That bug never goes away. It's a reoccurring virus kind of thing.
Yes, it is. That is one of the best console builds I have seen so far.
Ooh, Monster Power. I remember the days of Monster Power, Justin. When Monster Cable came out with some of their Monster Power stuff that was out there. Their cabling was great. I know you're not talking that kind of Monster Power, but reminiscing of 30 years ago. I remember when Noel Lee's car was in Car Stereo Review, and we looked at this BMW, and he had everything customized in that particular car. But he was really showing off the cabling. He had plexiglass panels built into the floor showing the power wire. And I'm like, why would you? Oh, I forgot. This is Noel Lee's car. That's right. That's why he's doing it. And it was install points. It was cool.
I'm going to ask now that you've brought this up. Do you miss the days of it being the whole car that you got judged on?
Yes, because I remember the days of early Iasca and Usaki in the late 80s, early 90s, when you had 3 minutes to walk around and show your judges what you did and why. And you had to have a presentation of your vehicle. And you could have pictures or a video if you were so inclined to have a home VHS player that Sony made in your car with a monitor and let them listen to that. But yeah, that is showing my age. And yeah, I'm not even going to go there with Melissa asking her age, because that's not polite to ask a lady her age.
I'm not shy about it at all. I am 47 years old.
There you go. See, Melissa understands where I'm coming from with this. I do a few.
I am proud of my age. I'm just proud I made it this far.
I turned 50 at the beginning of May. And when I say I've been doing this for 30 years, it's more like 35 almost.
Yeah.
I got my license in 1988. And actually the night before I got my license, I rolled through a stop sign and got my first ticket. So that's a whole nother story. But yeah, I remember back in the day when everything was install related. Yes. And you got judged on your security system as well.
Yes.
And there was a separate category just for that.
And don't dare show up with the wrong damn screws.
Oh, good Lord. If your screws were not perfectly square, all of them, if you had one that was tweaked just a little bit, that attention to detail score would drop from a 10 down to a 6 if you were lucky. Because everybody else, they were all perfectly square. And yeah, if you were missing anything, if your colors didn't match, people would rip out the LEDs in their radio so that they could match their dash lights, or vice versa. They would take out the dash and replace it with that really nice old school Alpine faded green that was there if they had an orange LED in their dash. So everything was attention to detail. Nobody got
back when we had the energy to be OCD about
it. And for Larry, it's CDO, because I'm that much OCD. but yeah, those days, few and far between. Although I do still have some pictures from back then, and there's a couple of great groups out on Facebook catering to the old school installs that are out there. If anyone wants links to them, just message me, or I'll throw up a couple shares on the Baseworks page or my own homepage and take a look at them, because some of them are the OCD-ness, if that's even a word. The OCD etiquette back then was extremely high.
Mm-hmm.
And if you weren't OCD enough, you didn't win the competition.
Mm-mm. And they were not shy about telling you why you didn't win.
Oh, yeah.
They were blunt.
Yep. They would flat out tell you. And also, bringing that up as well, if you knew who the judge was at your show and you talk to him afterward, if I talk to Melissa and say, so what didn't you like? And she tells me that you felt that the imaging was off. You could hear the vocal was, it was nice, but it felt a little more left sided. I know I'm doing this the backwards way for you guys, but left to me. But it was a little more left sided, a little more left of center than I would have liked. Well, then you can see that, oh, hey, Melissa's judging my car again. I got to remember that. I got to look back through my notes because I'm taking notes.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh, well, maybe if I mention it to her without having changed anything, well, maybe I can subliminally change her mind. And maybe she comes back to me at the end of the day and says, yeah, it did sound a lot better. Yes, I got one over on Melissa. That's awesome. I know I can do that to her now. So I'll remember that.
Can you imagine judging today's stunt walls by those standards?
No, thank you. Because I remember the day where the judge's book was like 50 pages long, and it literally went over battery position and this and that, and it has to be this. And I'm not going to comment on that, Derek, but yes.
And I'm the exact opposite. I like a stunt wall as long as it's tuned. But that's the key word. Please tune it. It doesn't take that long. Stand back and listen to it.
There was a meme that went out there just recently about the sound wave that you could hear from one of them, and I saw that and I was like, yeah, that's too much. Yet there's other ones in other countries that I've seen that are equally confusing, for lack of a better term, but they do the trick. And that's essentially what they're there for, is to just broadcast.
Yeah.
They're nice. They're loud, ear-piercingly loud most of the time, because they're running 100 watts to some horn that may have a 99 or 100 or 103 sensitivity rating, and all of a sudden you're putting 100 watts to it and you're broadcasting something that's on that upper end of the piano keyboard area. Those higher pitches, they don't need to have that much power behind them to be loud. They're going to be loud anyway.
Exactly. And David's picking on me because he knows I've got a stunt wall in my car.
Yep.
But hey, in my defense, mine is Gale Force, and it sounds great.
Well, there is a reason though, Derek, and it's the simple fact that we all like our stereos, and we're all car enthusiasts or truck enthusiasts. Now, I don't personally like chrome. I like a well put together 65 Mustang just like anybody else or most other people. But if you've got chrome on it, chrome doesn't make it fast. Chrome makes it shiny and blinding to look at, but it doesn't make it fast. That being said, that same chrome guy is going to look at my car stereo and say, why the hell does it have to be that loud?
Yeah.
It's because we're car enthusiasts. All of us. It doesn't matter if it's
I have no idea how many times I've heard the sentence, why did you ruin your car?
Why did you ruin it? Well, I didn't ruin it. I can take everything out. Okay, maybe I did a little, but you can take everything back out. You can't necessarily do that in some of the cars where they've had to modify an engine bay to put in to go from a 305 to a 454 big block, or even worse, go into like a 502 or even bigger. The people that do that, those are and where's Donnie's comment? That's Donnie. That's the extreme mayhem build. That's that F1 or Indy car compared to myself running a go-kart. And unfortunately, some of the go-karts that are out there that do race have more power than my Festiva. So,
Have you heard his yet? Extremely loud.
I know of Nick's build. I haven't seen it personally, but again, like I said at the beginning of the show, some of them that are out there, I've seen a lot of them. Haven't heard them personally, but of what I've seen of the scores and things like that, when you've got to redo, as David just put up there, when you've got to re-weld your inner door to make sure that your door handle actually works, or that the hinges are coming loose, or that you've ripped a side panel, make sure that you're taking care of your vehicle.
Yes,
Don't let it necessarily get rusty or anything, or simply buy the vehicle because of what you want to put in it and that it's a crappy vehicle or a rusty vehicle. But yeah, make sure you're taking care of your welds. Make sure you're taking care of the suspension. Check the tires. Check the oil. I don't care if it's a Trailer Queen or not. Check the oil. Make sure you put gas in it when you get to the show. Only has to be half a gallon or a gallon for most of these Trailer Queens that get out there, because you forget something and it's gas and you're 20 feet from the entry. I'm not moving my setup. You're pushing your truck. And if you got to push 8,000 pounds back up onto a ramp, or 12,000 pounds or bigger, you better be really friendly with everybody at the show, because otherwise no one's going to help you. It's just a fact.
Oh, I like 15.
It's 3 times, Phil. It's three times.
I've had very few demos down at 15 hertz. Very few.
15 would be nice. I can't do 15 in my car. I have a subsonic filter for that, which also reminds me.
My subs that far.
And actually, now that I think about it, Phil, it was actually 4 times. That's sad. I broke down 4 times going to shows. How sad is that? Well, it is a $200 car, though. So, if you're going to a show, make sure you got a backup plan to get home. If your buddy's going there, if one of you two can pull a trailer, that helps. If the one that pulls the trailer is the one that breaks down, you're kind of SOL. But yeah, you got to have backup plans for everything, especially when you get to the show.
I've got a decal on my windshield that says, "You got to drive this thing home, stupid."
Very true. I'm just glad I only broke down once at night. Every other time has been during the day. And almost close enough for a shop to come and get me.
Yeah.
But not quite.
I drive all the way across the country. Things like tires and maintenance are extremely important.
Tires are always good.
Oh, definitely. And check them for screws and nails, because we are bad about when we're doing installs to just chunk a screw.
Especially if it is not your property, or if you're not up against a weed line or a tree line or something, and you're at a facility that's in an industrial area. Don't drop your crap on the ground, folks. Pick it up, throw it 30 feet behind you into the trees if you have to, but pick it all up and make sure the place looks better, because otherwise Melissa might not be able to have a show there again, or Jimmy might not be able to have a show there again, or
Exactly.
someone else may not be able to. Pick up after yourself. Mom and dad taught you that when you were 3. And if you didn't, you got your butt spanked. So
And
I'm more
then
than happy to
my
spank
area,
more people out
I
there.
am really, really lucky. They pick up after themselves.
Mm-hmm.
The place looks like we've never been there. Doesn't
Always a good thing.
if glass gets broke, they're getting it up.
That
And
is
as far as
always a
helping
good
me
thing.
set the tent, only one time have I had to set up completely by myself. Awfully proud of my guys. They are very helpful.
Rarely do I see anyone working that way on their systems, although it does happen. And I know people that have built a box at a show, and because they got there and something wasn't right, or it broke because the person hauling it there didn't strap it down in the bed of their truck. Lots of things will happen. Bring spares. If you know somebody there that's got something similar, you know, ask them. And hey, mine broke. Can I use yours? I've been to shows where it's been literally my spare car, my sub box, and my amp competing against me. And with about 10 seconds left, I was like, all right, man, you're done, you're done, you're done. And there was still more to go in the car, and he would have beat me. I'm not going to say where that show was or who it was, but Jimmy and Sonia were the judges, and unfortunately, he blew things about 80 feet away from it in the other org lane, and yeah, all of a sudden he's running everything that was out of my vehicle except for my stereo. So yeah, it does happen. And that
Aaron,
was without
a
a
spare sub this weekend.
spare
Man,
subs are good. Spare amp, maybe. Fuses, ring terminals, an extra 10 or 15 feet of wire, definitely. Extra RCA cables, extra bass knob, almost required. And if you haven't thought of it, Pop Tart at the beginning of the show was talking about USB sticks. Have a couple of spare USB sticks with only what you need on them. If you get spare tires and mirrors too, especially after sub cones come out and pop your mirror or take your ear off. The USBs, get small USBs. You guys don't need to have 32 gigs of USB space. 4 or 8 gig is more than enough, because really at a show you need 5 or 6 songs, and you need 5 or 6 frequencies for your tones. You need 15 files total, a couple sweeps. Anything bigger than that, and you're going to be sitting there forever waiting for that thing to queue up.
yes.
Taking that long in the line, sorry, get a move on.
I've had a bunch of people do this. It takes forever. And
yep.
Don't do that.
Ooh, don't do a 256 if you can, Derek. And that brings up another thing right after there that Jeremy just said. iPhones and iPods are a different source. I don't want to give out the trick on them, but they're not necessarily as loud as other sources. And that is one of the things that I have tested. In terms of the loudest source stuff out there, honestly, in my own personal vehicle, it's actually a CD and then a USB with FLAC files as opposed to MP3s, because they're lossless. They are technically better and more rich in sound. If you can do a nice, good USB, I don't mean that 3-pack for $20 at Walmart. I mean a good USB. Download FLAC files, FLAC, and try not to use Bluetooth. Try not to
Please.
use an auxiliary cord. Bluetooth is nice when you're just cruising around and you're listening in your car for work and during the week. But like I've done to other people while they're in the lanes, if I call you while you're using Bluetooth and you're at the show and you're in the lane, hey, buddy, get off your Bluetooth and use my USB that I just gave you. It doesn't have my song on it. Use the USB that I just gave you. It's better.
Definitely. And I keep a stack of them ready to go.
I generally don't keep a stack of them. I want to know what other people are generally using. I'll ask them. But if you didn't bring something, okay, maybe I'll borrow you one. But generally, I'm going to tell you to go make a friend and expand your followers on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram.
Well, I'm from the country. Well, technically not, because I do live in the city, but I take my boys to the country. A lot of times there is no Bluetooth out there. You know, you can't use your phone. And they don't know that until they get to the shows.
Jesse, you cannot buy one of mine. I don't sell any USBs. I will make one for myself, but it's going to be queued just for me. I'm greedy that way. It's not that I don't want to or don't have time, but I just don't make them for anyone. I don't have the knowledge nor the tools to set one up properly. However, there are many people on here and a lot of great places on Facebook that will sell you one or put up links on Google OneDrive or any number of other sites. DJ Rusticles, DJ Siren, Ghosted Music.
Yep.
Look up those people online on Facebook and they will have a link for you somewhere. If they don't, Pandora and Spotify work in a pinch if you really want to, but they're harder to do that way because you're not always guaranteed a good song. But
I always tell my guys,
on it sometimes.
They have to use their phone, download the Ultimate Car Audio app.
Yep.
Because it has all your tones in it. And not only that, they'll get some knowledge out of it.
Very true. Good app right there. I personally like the one from DD. Yep. I use the DD Toolbox because there's a little, again, not necessarily a trick, but if you know that your car peaks, depending on the day, between 42 and 45 hertz, find out when you get there and then look in the DD Toolbox and start playing 42.1 and 42.2 and 42.3. Almost guaranteed that you will find a better frequency suited for your vehicle, and you might even go up a little bit just based on that half cycle of music, or that half tone, as I like to call them. There is a difference in some of the toolboxes out there, but DD is a good one. The Ultimate Car Audio app is a good one. There's several others, although stay away from the SPL meters for your phone. Those are horribly inaccurate.
Yes, they are.
Those are more inaccurate than the meme of Steve Buscemi saying "looks good to me." Yep, DD's is good, as Phil just mentioned there. Rebased is a good site as well. Someone put that up on there before. Derek did. Yeah, there we go. And as Melissa was just showing you, make your own sometimes. There's a good tool out there called what is it here? I got to minimize my screen here for a minute. Audacity, AUDACITY. Looks like a bunch of it kind of looks like Pac-Man with a bandana around his whole head, wearing a pair of blue headphones. But that one, you can make your own test tones, and they don't have to be 30 seconds. They can be, you get into the tone a little bit, and then you can pause it, and make your tone 40 seconds long or 45 seconds. Just because our classification only goes to 30 seconds doesn't mean you've got to have a 30-second tone. It can be longer. It can be shorter. Doesn't matter. As long as you've got the right tone or the right song, and you know that where that song is supposed to start and finish and your bass is in that range, you should be good to go.
Mm-hmm.
The Eurometer, that also works. The Eurometer definitely works because if you're rattling the dishes at mom's house or at grandma's place, I use the dishometer. It's a little different, but if grandma comes out or she starts screaming at me through the window as she used to do when I was really young doing this, yeah, that meant that I was loud enough and that I should get out of my car immediately before she came after me with the wooden spoon. So, yes, again, I'm showing my age. That's how old I am. My knuckles still hurt when I say wooden spoon.
That's okay. We're all old. I find it a little bit different. I say we're successful.
True. Oh, there's a great site, Jeremy.
Which one?
Pin Jeremy's one up there with Tidal and his Alpine Halo 511.
Oh, yes.
If you are using Tidal, it is a fantastic service that honestly every audiophile out there uses Tidal if they use an MP3. And I don't mean your phone as an MP3 or, I'm holding up a remote, but I don't mean an Apple iPod. I'm talking a top of the line $2,000 or $3,000 MP3 player. It's going to be loaded up with songs and tones from Tidal. Tidal is by far the premier audiophile quality song download source. They have.
And you're the second judge to tell me this.
But they are the best source out there for high-end quality audiophile sounds, tones, songs, and they might not have the latest from Metallica or Selena Gomez or Cannibal Corpse if you're into that, but they're going to give you the best stuff regardless of what it is. Give the music guys a little advice. Pick a good song. Know when the song starts. Don't give me the 30-second average if you know that at 19 seconds in that the bass drops out and all of a sudden your score goes from a 43 and all of a sudden, boom, you're down to a 19 at the end.
I did that this weekend.
That's the best music build advice that I can give you, other than using something that's already been rebased, unless you're going in the old school class. Because if I hear you using rebased in there,
yeah,
I will slap you a little bit.
In fact, I want to know where it comes from.
If you're using our 3 songs for old school, they are the theme from Flashdance from Irene Cara, Hard Habit to Break from Chicago, and Dirty Diana from Michael Jackson. It's got to be an original recording of it. It can be a remastered recording of it, but it cannot be rebased.
Exactly.
If you want to do a rebased one, I know where that song is going to come from, and I know exactly where I'm throwing your phone that you're using it from. Don't do it. Don't be cheap. Like Donnie said right there, and what Phil was asking for in the advice, it is simply knowing the song again. If you know the song really, really well, I mean, you've listened to it 100 times or 200 times or 300 times, not something that's brand new and you like it because it sounds good. Use it and Do it right.
August, don't come in here and started picking on him.
No, we can't. No, but no, seriously, know the song, know where it picks up. If the song has a long intro, fast forward. Get up to
Yes.
that 42, 43-second spot where the bass drops and measure it out a couple times. Make sure that it's going to last 30 seconds or a minute if you're doing crowd loud. Because there is that time factor in it as well. If there's too many bass drops in it, not necessarily are bass drops necessarily any good either, but a consistent bass is better. And I don't mean just one note being held down on the keyboard where that's all you're doing. It's it should bounce a little bit, but as long as you're there with it and there's no big drop off on it, 30 seconds or 60 seconds isn't bad. If you want something that's worse than that, play your local radio station and watch your voltage spike up and down then, because that's going to be so much more dynamic. If you're doing that, again, FM, not necessarily the best source for music, especially since you can't control when it clips. It's a constant signal, but yeah, you still can't control it that well. And it's going to be, again, in my experience, it's going to be about 2.5, 3 dB quieter than anything else. Get yourself a good USB, fill it up with 5 or 10 songs that you know are really good and where they need to be. Whether you play it in any of the musical fun classes like Hurricane Twister, or you're doing it for crowd loud, which again, that's going to be a different frequency because it's outside. It's not going to be where your vehicle peaks, but make sure it's got good bass. Make sure it's got a consistent, constant bass note or a couple of constant bass notes in it. You will score higher, especially on an average.
And I've had a lot of people roll up and play Port Wars, thinking they can burp exactly where they normally burp and it be okay. They don't realize that the resonant frequency of their vehicle is no longer there because it's in the port.
It's going to change. Again, that comes down to what we originally said about testing and taking that little notebook. And I actually, I got one right above my Snoopy head, right behind me. I carry this little notebook, and that particular one doesn't have any of my notes in it because that's for a different notebook setup that I use for something completely different. That one's for work, but take notes. Make sure that if you're measuring something, where was the mic?
Yes.
And what meter were you using? Were you using TermLab or were you using the mini SPL mic? There's a slight difference between the two. Generally, it's only about 1/10, but put the mic right next to or in that same exact spot in your vehicle, pull that one out, put in the other one, whether it's TermLab or mini SPL, there's going to be a little bit of a difference. Damn, my chair is squeaky in here tonight. Are we running Beast and Hot Seat this year? Yes. We'll run every class at finals and at our last shows. Whether they change, yeah, some of them might. I know Billy has already announced a couple of power changes that we're going to change up from.
Asking Hogan because he wants to run the same things as him.
Yep. We will always run the same classes. I can't say that I will personally run the classes. Some of them, I've never had anyone enter trunk rattle.
I did trunk rattle one time all year long.
If you want to do a Jeep versus Jeep like a grudge match, that's awesome. Heck yes. If you want to do Civic on Civic, or if you want to do Tahoe versus Tahoe, go for it. I would welcome that kind of grudge match / challenge at any show,
Oh,
especially if you put some skin in the game.
definitely.
Throw
Yeah,
$5 in there.
we'll get out there and play.
Throw a haircut into the game. Do something. 3 minute the 3 minute death match is perfect for things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Same song, same USB,
Well, Pop Tarts
boom,
Ghost Class would be
the
perfect for
ghost
stuff
class.
like that too.
Exactly. Which actually we should kind of mention that again. Pop Tart has a ghost class that he is going to initiate along with the team uh, category that Billy and Jimmy were talking about last weekend or last week, not this past Monday, but actually last week, where Billy actually showed some scores from it. Hey, Dustin, what's going on? I haven't seen you in a long time, man. We have a
Get to
couple of
a
new
show.
things that Jimmy and Billy and Brandon, we would all talk on Facebook in a little group chat, and this idea of a team aspect came up. Now, if we do have, sorry, Rocky, you'd lose. If we do have something like that, it's kind of fun. You cannot name me the professor. That's Neil Peart. I'm sorry, he is the only one that gets
I
that.
I love the idea of this Team Wars.
But the
This is
team
gonna be
is you
fun.
get 5 people, and you don't necessarily have to be all on TBO or TSF or Team Hurt Feelings or anything else. It's a basic team that goes up against another basic team. And some of you may get a handicap with your score, some of you may not. And it showed a graphic at the end of it with your adjusted SPL. A small car like mine, or a small Civic hatch, or a older, a Honda Fit, something like that with 212s goes up against Donnie, who does a 160. Donnie's going to get a +5 handicap, and the Civic might get a +15 handicap, or the trunk car might get a +20 handicap. And you do that, and then you get your adjusted score. And then you take your next run and you put someone in, and then the next team picks someone else. And then your team picks, and then Melissa's team picks someone else. And you do that 5 times where you rotate who goes in. And then the next person gets to pick someone to see if they can beat them or not. And all of those adjusted averages get added up at the end. And Team Melissa all of a sudden scores 893, and Team Hogan scores 892. That's
It's gonna be a blast.
nice little caveat to it. Although right there, that would be 890. That would be, man, 175 average. 100, no, more like 190 average over the course of
We all
everyone.
need to get to work.
Man, you guys need to get a lot louder if we're going to do something like that and score 880 points or 890 points, man.
Boy, ain't no way. Ain't no way. I will go in debt to keep from getting my butt whooped.
You cannot have my credit card, Melissa.
Oh, I don't even need mine.
That's already spoken for. I'm looking at something that Phil and I need to talk about after the show here tonight. I want to drop 5 figures on something, and he's going to say no.
Oh, Lord help. You better give them puppy dog eyes, because that sounds like a lot of money.
It's going to need more than that. Some squad flexing on them. Well, there are a couple of flexing on them teams out there.
I'm one of them. Hogan's one of them.
I was going to say, I think you and Hogan are both on that.
Jenkins.
If you do flexing on them one, flexing on them two, that could be an interesting grudge match.
Oh, definitely.
North versus South, as far as North Carolina, South Carolina teams of TBO, perhaps, or Team Deadly Hurts or whoever. You get any kind of team that's out there. And again, it doesn't have to be that you're all on the same team in that regard, just that you're all at the show and you want to do a friendly for $1 or someone's getting a haircut maybe.
Oh, no. They all going to be wearing pink tutus when they leave.
I've done that. I was proud to do it though when I did it. I did that for a polar bear plunge on Valentine's Day about 15 years ago. And yes, the water is cold. It doesn't hit you till about a minute later.
Oof. No.
And then you realize, what was I doing? Because yeah, it does get really cold. I was out there with I think my daughter would have been about 2 years old, and the ice block that we pulled out of the lake at the beginning of it was taller than her. I think I got a picture of it somewhere on Facebook. I don't remember, but it was cold. The water was like, it literally was just above 32 degrees. And it doesn't help if you do a cannonball and you splash all the other people who are waiting to get in because they're still freezing.
Nope. I can't stand cold water. I couldn't do that.
I might be the only one in a tutu to do that, but it was good. We were team tutu cold, and we had the highest raised dollar figure for the Special Olympics up in central Minnesota, where I was living at the time. And basically it was because my cousin is the special ed director at my old high school. We got a lot of people together and a lot of money, and it was fun.
Yep, and it's getting about time for all of us to start working on our Toys for Tots shows and all of our shows that give back this time of year.
I've got a couple ideas for that already. Yeah, if
I need to go ahead and book some.
If any of our people out there work at or work for a Salvation Army, United Way, Special Olympics, they work for an organization that helps out in the community that way, get in touch with your base wars judge. We can do quite a bit with a show that helps them as well. I'm more than happy to do that for Special Olympics because it's near and dear to my heart. But if you got another organization that needs something, and I don't mean your T-ball association for your kid. I'm talking.
I do one at the Little League ballpark
for your
they
kid.
Take the gate fee, and I get a place to play all day long. And you know what? We done bought them whatever they needed.
Yeah,
it works out great for us.
Yep,
I love the little leagues.
If you've got a bigger softball complex or baseball complex in your town, if you've got a bigger park in your town that has one area that's a little more secluded off to one side or one corner, if you've got your favorite stereo shop and they've got a huge parking lot and they're on the outside of town, not at the main, right across the street from a residential area in a strip mall, those are always bad places. If you've got something else that's got power and that has good internet, because sometimes you want to broadcast from the shows, talk to your local judge. He or she will be more than happy to have a show there. I'm pretty positive of that. I've posted out many times that you find me a Quonset hut or a broken down barn, I'll have a show there as long as I can get power. Or if you tell me that there's no power and I got to bring my generator, I'll be more than happy to do that too.
Yes, I take my generator to every show because
always Helps to have a
rather,
backup.
huh? I would
Always have that backup.
I would rather be outside of the city. I don't want to mess with all these permits. Just get me away from everybody. I'm more than happy to drive.
Yep. I cover an area. For me to get to the
Yes.
nearest large, and I'm going to say large metropolitan area, 250,000 or bigger, out of Sioux Falls, is going to be Omaha at 180 miles south of me.
Oof.
It's then going to be Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities area with about 3.5 million, and then Fargo with about Fargo's right around 2.25. So, I cover an area that is huge.
Covers
Fargo alone is 250
it.
miles. So I cover an area that's about 400 miles north and south directly out of Sioux Falls and easily 300 east and west. So I'm covering, 400 times 300, 120,000 plus Minnesota. If I go to Duluth, which is going to be about a 7-hour drive for me, it's too much sometimes. But if you got a place
Mm-hmm.
and you can get me power, internet, maybe power is helpful. Internet, not so much because I don't need it. But
Negotiable.
power, try and help me out, man. Find that old abandoned Shopko or if Kmart or Piggly Wiggly or Food Lion or whatever. I will have a show there.
Oh yeah.
And I'm pretty sure Melissa will do the same, as would any of the rest of our judges as well. So if you got something, hey, let us know. Otherwise,
Yeah, call and ask. What could it hurt?
the worst thing that we can say is, no, I've already got a show that's in the works. And hey, maybe you can help them out.
Whoa, Mr. Loud has done come up in the group.
There's Joe.
Hello, Mr. Joe Price. Noisy Boy Labs.
Showing up right at the end, like most seasoned competitors who want to come in and just sneak in right under the wire.
Hey, I don't blame him. He ain't got to run twice.
But this is true. Most people, unless you know that you can do something better, most of the time you don't have to. Unless you're just simply, you cheat like I do and you start your run at 50 hertz, then 5 seconds in, okay, that wasn't loud enough. You bump up a track, you go to 51. Okay, that wasn't it either. 52 today. Oh, yep, it's 52 hertz today. Because 53, you do that at the last second and it's a lot shorter.
See, I'm the different kind of competitor than y'all. I want to meter first thing in the morning while the voltage is still there,
Yep.
and go demo for the rest of the day.
And that also kind of brings up something that we can probably talk about next week, along with Matthew's coming here. Why should we run a lot? The best
Exactly.
The best answer for that is kind of what we've been talking about all night, is you get extra knowledge. You can write all that down and say, hey, at 1:00 it was 53 degrees, and at 2:00 it was 58, and finally at 4:00 the rain had moved through and it's now 73 degrees. You got to write down that other information. That helps.
He can keep them other 4 clicks. I'm pretty sure he can hurt me with those.
Ooh, here's the other 4. That no. Sorry, Joe. No. You give me one of those 4, and I'm preferring the one that goes right after 31 that goes to 32. I don't want to hear 35. I'll hear 31 or 32. This is true, as sometimes that shows. If you get the wrong person going through too many times and you're vibrating other buildings, yeah, it does happen. Let's see, what else do we got here?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, cool coils also, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Run through once. drive around, come back to the back of the line, wait your turn again, meter, go back around again, wait your turn, meter. It is easier. It's better on your system too.
All right. Answer this. What is your favorite vehicle for a burp?
The loudest one.
What's your
Generic answer.
favorite to build?
The easiest one. Back in the day of installing, the easiest one to build. You kind of got to go with some of the Fords that were literally you throw your Ford keys in, the radio slides out, the harness, you can have it wired up inside of 5 or 6 minutes, and you're done with your radio.
See, I kind of agree with him because this is where my roots started.
Exactly. A CRX will get loud on very little power, but they are compression limited to some extent. So, you start working at 158 at, 6 or 6,500 watts, and you're searching for that 160. You may never hit it because of compression. Explorers, same way.
Yes.
They get really loud. Not necessarily the new body style, but some of the older ones.
Yes.
And you start hitting that limit, and all of a sudden your power takes a dip. You're gaining all the way up to 2,000, and all of a sudden you're holding steady at 25 and 28 and 29, and you're like, okay, there's an issue. And you're trying to figure it out. No, that's not an issue. That's your limit. That's all you're going to do.
But for me, I'm going to go backwards on this. I'm going to take my goal and figure out what I actually want, and then buy the vehicle. Because
if you can do that, which is beneficial if you have a SUV or a small hatch, because you may start out in no wall or a stock class in another org, and go up to a C-pillar if you want to in a Explorer or Chevy Blazer, as we're both mentioned there, and then finally go full wall right at the B-pillar. You can do all three, and with the same vehicle, you can be extremely efficient in all three of those areas in that same vehicle. If I were to try that, I might not be efficient in one or the other, but you don't know until you try. So there is that aspect as well.
Absolutely. Everybody's got perfect answers in here.
Late 80s Blazer. Some of the best vehicles out there for it, especially if you do minimal work to the doors. And by minimal, I don't mean rip off the door panel and do something else. I don't mean build out. I mean just simply smooth out behind them. So many vehicles lose because they haven't done anything in the doors and those side panels. Figure out where you're losing. It's not necessarily helping if you got someone pushing on your door. It's not necessarily helping if the door isn't prepped and tested. Do all of that, you'll be louder eventually. It does happen. Put in the work. If an armored
I love the way he thinks. Armored truck.
It's actually, you know what, Donnie? Just because, I got to open up another window here for a second. Armored vehicles for sale. No. Yes, I am going directly to the source here. Oh God, it's perfect. It's a 95 GMC 3500 Git truck. It looks good. It's got 181,000 miles. It does have some armor in it. It's going to stop everything short of actually, it is going to stop a 44 Magnum. It does not give me a price on this particular one. But yeah, if you want to get like a bulk truck, like an old UPS FedEx bulk truck, um, old U-Haul style, those are available directly from most of the manufacturers. And I was going to say Ritchie Brothers is a great place for auctions on those as well. They handle everything government surplus. Um, they'll do it. And it would be interesting, although I think we may be about the only org that would still allow something like that. I think most other orgs have ruled out the commercial vehicle to most, if not all categories, unless it's an extreme style mayhem build. So you want to do something like RP is doing? Go for it. Full metal cage, 8-inch square all the way around, not this big gaping 12-inch square all the way around that isn't as strong. Yeah, go for it. It's fun to watch. Take you a year and a half to build it, but it would take a while. But it would be fun to watch.
Well, does anybody have any questions before we get out of here tonight? Anybody?
Going once.
Because, we got finals in Jasper. The week before, we are at the same place, September 30th, for testing, and I'm going to run the lanes. So they got an opportunity if they need those last minute points. If you need a show, call, ask. I got time. Dan, you got a show this weekend?
I do have a show this weekend. I'm going over to Huron, South Dakota, home of the world's only corn palace. Yes, there is corn on the outside of the building. Live corn, but there is corn on the outside of the building. I drove by it a week ago. Jimmy has a show in Grand Island, Nebraska on Sunday. For whatever reason, our schedules matched up where we're having a Saturday, Sunday kind of thing. So there's actually 2 shows this weekend up in my area that way. I'm about 110 miles away from Huron. I'm about 145, 150 miles away from Grand Island. So I'm hoping that some of my guys do both of them so they can get their 5 shows.
Oh, definitely, because I was looking and a lot of Jimmy's guys still need a show or 2. Y'all got that opportunity. Get them wheels rolling. There's base force shows everywhere this weekend, except with me. So call me.
I am, in fact, from Grand Island. Oh, I overspoke. I thought it was 150. I am 250 miles away.
Okay.
But an easy 4-hour drive.
Oh, that's nothing for our guys.
It's a U.S. highway the whole way there out of Sioux Falls, and I can only think of one location where there's actually road construction. So,
and didn't you say the speed limit up there is like 80?
Yeah. Well, it is in South Dakota. See, Minnesota, they're a bunch of tight asses. Their speed limit in Minnesota is only 70. North Dakota is 75. South Dakota is 70. Iowa and Nebraska are also both either 70 or 75, depending if you're on a state highway or the interstate. So South Dakota is nice. I've gotten pulled over many times for other things, but I don't have actually, I did get a speeding ticket in Minnesota about 3 weeks ago, and I actually need to find it and pay it because I think it's overdue. I might not be driving to Huron this weekend if it is. But it is my first ticket in like 30 years as well, so got a lot of warnings, but never another ticket. Anyways.
Yeah, 80 down here costs $350.
Yeah, I would not survive down south anymore. That would not be. I couldn't survive down there.
See, that's why I'm in so much trouble. I gotta keep the speed down because
there's the other lady.
Oh, there is the boss lady herself. I absolutely adore her.
Sonia is the best word that I can describe Sonia. Oh man, I would get in trouble if I said it too loudly, but just the simple fact that she kicks ass at what she does, and
Yes,
she
she
doesn't she
does.
doesn't take any shit either. She is determined to make her shows fun and easy. That is
Yes,
the best thing that I could say about her, and
man, working
she
Slam
does that
Ollie
all the time.
with her was amazing, and I learned so much.
Oh, a radio and four speakers. Did you get the code for the other radio though, Phil? That's the only question. We have two Hummers in our shop right now.
Yeah, and it sounds like you need to get to work because you got a speeding ticket to go pay, and you got to go and talk your buddy into buying some business equipment.
No, now you're sounding like my mom telling me what to do. That's not always a good thing, but mom does do good things though. Ted, it is going fantastic tonight, man. Will you be up in Huron this weekend, or anybody down there from the Yankton area be up there? It's a nice, easy drive, man. You should come up. Get up that Corn Palace. Stop off at the Scoreboard Bar right next door.
Okay, you got to take photos and videos of this for me.
Of the Corn Palace?
Oh, definitely.
Cornpalace.com. Actually, now that I'm saying that, I don't know if it's cornpalace.com. Cornpalace.com. Mitchell, South Dakota. Opens at 8 a.m.
It actually pulled up on my phone.
It's bad. Oh, I don't want to see what's on your phone. We don't need that.
No, the Corn Palace actually pulled her up immediately.
It is the world's only Corn Palace. I kid you not. It is in the heart of downtown Mitchell, South Dakota. I've got a couple friends that live in that town. One of them runs a vape shop just down the street from it. A shout out to Fog and Draws, and Stephen Weber for helping me with a show earlier this year and everything else that he's done. Oh, come on, Ted. You can your prior commitments can be broke. This is Base Wars, man. Just do it.
Yo.
No, that's cool. Prior commitments, yeah, we get them. It ruins our Base Wars day once in a while. I know I've covered a couple of Jimmys in the past because he's had prior commitments, and only one of them kind of took something away from me because I was actually going to go to a Jimmy show, and someone else needed a show, and I was like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll do that. We'll go host the Base Wars show. I'll make some money instead of spending some money.
Well, I go to a lot of the other judges' shows. I want to see what they're doing, see how they do it. That way we're all in line with each other.
That's the best thing to do at the shows, honestly. And I'll even, again, Sonia is, when she's at 712 and we're running 40 cars with 115 or 130 runs or whatever we're doing during the day, if she needs a break or something, Jimmy will sit down at the computer and I'll grab the mic, or vice versa. I'll sit down at the computer, or any number of other people can do that for us. We just okay, move this and move that and type in their name and hit go when they give you a thumbs up. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's all we need is 5 minutes, whether it's to go get a drink, use a restroom, grab a sandwich, or have a cigarette or something, whatever. If we could do 5 minutes every once in a while, hey, it helps. It always does.
Always.
Oh, let's see what else was on there. I think we got nothing else on there other than that Phil needs me to get down to the shop and help him out, which I might actually do that. I don't have to be to work. I don't have to start work tomorrow till 9 a.m. for once. So the benefits of being told you're no longer full-time and they cut your pay and your things, and being told you're part-time are kind of beneficial, sort of. Not really, but 9 o'clock's an easier start time than 6:30.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Well,
It
how
is a
about
good thing.
this? We'll cut our evening short and tell our competitors good luck and go get them final points. Y'all need them.
Get your points, get your memberships. There is a
Yes,
link.
please take your membership numbers to the lanes with you.
Yes, it's only two numbers to remember. It's a 01 or 02 or 03, or it might be 18 or 23. It's an easy number to remember. Write it down and pen on your dash. Get a big
Something,
old marker. Write it in there. It's an easy
anything.
number.
I've got a bunch of my guys that are doing decals for the windshields for me
Oh, that works too. No, that'd be
until they
brilliant.
blow their windshields.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Get some of the speed 188.8 and just crank them out that way. That's not a bad idea. I might have to find my vinyl guy and have him do that for me.
Well, let's go ahead and let them out of here for tonight.
Definitely. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. We appreciate it. Hopefully, I will see you in the lanes this weekend for my local guys, and if not, hopefully see you in the lanes at finals underneath my guys.
Excited for finals. All right. Good night, everybody.
See you all later.